So I'd been invited by Guangdong TV station to visit some People's Congress deputies and see how democracy works in China. So the last thing I expected to be doing this week was hiking in a mountain range alongside a river in the Guangdong Mountains, about 200 kilometers northeast of Guangzhou. Nor did I expect to be wading through a marsh looking at 40,000-year-old rice still growing in a secret location. Wherever you are, welcome to another of my takes on China, and please don't forget to check that subscribe button. As I'm growing in follower numbers, I still see several drop off every single day. I doubt that people will subscribe and then unsubscribe quite so often. It really looks like the system is playing its games. So back to my Martian stuff in a moment. Let's talk about democracy. The West, led by the USA, have little of it, but accuse China of having none. I found the opposite to be true, and the hike and the marsh were part of my gathering or evidence gathering process. People in the West are told every 4 years that this is the most important day of your lives. You can go out and vote for the person you've never met, not seen any record of success from, and you're faced with the choice of whoever is the lesser of two evils. What's even worse is the obscene amount of money it costs to get elected. It's not voters who get represented, donors and organizations providing the means to get most of the benefits. Princeton University proved this 10 years ago. I've linked it, and nothing has changed since then. It's even worse in the UK, the supposed home of modern democracy and the Westminster system, because in the UK, there's an upper house called the House of Lords, which has the power to change and send back legislation. Most of the members are appointed because they made donations. Some were actually born into the job. Some have qualified for the role because they became High Court judges or bishops. But not one of them is elected, and they serve for life. And if we're honest, it would be hard to find one of them who understands what the common person in the street really wants, because they don't go to the streets. They live in mansions and palaces. And according to a 2018 audit of democracy, they, quote, essentially reflected the feelings of the UK elites, unquote. What a surprise. I'm willing to bet that unless they were out on a grouse hunt or off with the hounds chasing a fox, they've never been to the kinds of places Mr. Ye Qingliang, the NPC deputy that I was meeting, has been to. I prefer the wording consultative or even collaborative governance when talking about China's method of democracy, because there are some obvious and important points to consider when looking at the best forms of governance. One of them is that not all forms work the same way for different people. So even if the US system was wonderful, which we all know it isn't, it might not work so well in a communal society like China. Another important thing we often forget is that voting for a popular person, no matter how popular they are, doesn't necessarily mean that they can do the job. If we go to war, our military should be commanded by the most suitable and experienced officers, not the popular ones. When we invest in corporations, we look for an experienced CEO who understands the market, the company, the goods or services that they offer. But for some reason, we can entrust the running of the most powerful country in the world to mediocre lawyers or even TV personalities. Not all people can be experts on all things. So when a president is elected, he or she needs experts to guide policy. The US seems to have many expert lawyers. Blinken, for example, is a lawyer, not a diplomat, but he heads the world's largest diplomatic staff. China, on the other hand, has real experts who understand science, technology, societal issues, and the economy. Some of them work in government departments where, like Wang Yi, they've been all their adult lives. And others, like Mr. Ye, work in the field. They're elected to advise and offer different areas of expertise to supplement the knowledge and experience that the government holds. Mr. Ye is a botanist. He studies plants, and he's quite famous in China. He's actually discovered several new species of plants. And the process of discovery, as he explained, is not simple. After identifying a new plant, samples of the stalk, the flower, the petals, the leaves, in fact, all parts need to be DNA tested. Reports need to be written, published, and peer-reviewed before a plant is recognized as a new discovery. And by the time this has happened, it's several years have passed. For this visit, rather than meet an NPC deputy in office, I was in a field. Well, not exactly in a field. I was halfway up a mountain, looking at something quite unique. A tree with the Chinese name Dabao Shancha, literally meaning big bud mountain tea. It's a camellia plant. Most of the tea we drink comes from camellia. That much I knew, and it didn't surprise me. But what did surprise me was that 10 years ago, no one had ever recognized this tree. There are only about 300 of them in the world, and most of them are on the mountain that we were standing on. This is unusual. Why is this important to the governance of China, though? China was, we have to admit, horribly polluted just a few years ago. China's growth since the era of Hu Jintao has needed to focus on science, technology, and the environment. Advancements since Hu Jintao's day must be not only economically sustainable but environmentally so. And Mr. Ye conducts research to ensure the survival, propagation of rare plants, as well as protecting the ecology where they're grown. Without people like him, we'd have corporations tearing down forests for profit or modifying these rare plants to make something more profitable. Does that sound familiar? If it does, that's because it's the big difference between China's democracy, where people and environment come first now, and the West, where profit and political donations are deemed more important. On that topic, another thing Mr. Ye has done was to rediscover something incredibly important. In a marsh, which was once part of an agricultural area now rezoned due to the construction of a dam, he's discovered the re-emergence of rice predating human habitation. This wild rice is ancient. He believes more than 40,000 years. It's likely to have been one of the seeds of life in China, and it's growing in this small marshy corner of Lantang Town, part of Ziji County in Guangdong. As a result of a suggestion that Mr. Ye put forward to the Provincial People's Congress, not only is this marsh protected, teams were sent to other parts of Guangdong to look for and preserve areas where this rice might also be growing. The seeds have been harvested and stored for some future use we might find for them, and a new museum was built and opened to showcase the rare plants of Guangdong. The museum is open every day and completely free to visit. Now, I don't know if others will agree that this is democracy at work, but when representatives from towns and villages across the country are involved in such things as the discovery of new species, then the government promotes at their advice the preservation of ancient plants, the construction of museums to highlight their importance, and the people involved are both selected and elected to represent the region in the People's Congress. These are all good indicators of good governance to me. Let me know what you think in the comments, whether you agree or disagree. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for that, and I will see you next time. Please feel free to like and share. Bye for now.